All right, so this is the elkhorn coral, and this is the organism that I chose for the primary producer. The elkhorn coral is a reef building coral from the Caribbean, and this coral stretches from Broward County, Florida, and all the way to Venezuela. The species has a complex structure with many branches which resemble that of elk antlers, hence the common name. This branching structure creates habitat and shelter for many other reef species, and the greatest threat to elkhorn coral is ocean warming, which causes the corals to release the algae that live in their tissue and provide them with food, usually causing death. These abiotic factors include trash and/or pollution that the coral and other marine life may encounter, rocks, minerals, the water, and other non-living things in the coral reef ecosystem. Global climate change causes an increase in the temperature of marine waters, which is detrimental to the coral. Ocean acidification, also a byproduct of global climate change, can impair coral skeleton calcification rates and erode existing reefs. Hurricanes also are a threat as their intense storm conditions can cause damage to the coral through changing wave action. So this here is the food web that I made for the elkhorn coral. And the elkhorn coral has a mutually beneficial relationship with microscopic algae, which it also gets energy from photosynthesis during the day. The top predator on coral reefs, elkhorn coral get food from photosynthetic algae that lives inside the coral cells. They also feed by capturing plankton with their polyps tentacles. Secondary consumers that actively hunt large fish and squid to eat. Most corals are both heterotrophic. They catch nutrition from outside sources, and autotrophic, and they rely on photosynthesis from symbiotic algae. Plant plankton, called phytoplankton, algae and other plants convert light energy into chemical energy through photosynthesis. As animals eat the plants and other animals, energy is passed through the food chain. So right here is the zooplankton, and this is the organism that I chose for the primary consumer. And zooplankton are heterotrophic plankton, and plankton are organisms drifting in oceans, seas, and bodies of fresh water. Small floating or weakly swimming organisms that drift with water currents and phytoplankton make up the planktonic food supply upon which almost all oceanic organisms are ultimately dependent. The most important types of zooplankton include the radiolarians and crustaceans, chordates, and mollusks. Zooplankton have adapted various mechanisms to float in the water column and protect themselves from predation. Some, such as larval crustaceans, have spikes that protect them and allow more surface area for better flotation. Generally, when they hatch out, they are planktonic and at some point in their life cycle become members of the nekton, the swimmers, or benthnos, the bottom dwellers. So here is the same food web as before, and I chose the same one because, as you can see right here, the zooplankton are in this one. And zooplankton are small heterotrophic animals who play a role in aquatic food webs and act as a resource for consumers on higher trophic levels, including fish, are small aquatic microorganisms in the water column that include crustaceans, rotifers, open water insect larvae, and aquatic mites. The zooplankton community is composed of both primary consumers, which eat free-floating algae, and secondary consumers, which feed on other zooplankton. The relationship between algae and their zooplanktonic predators typically involves consumption of nutrients by algae, grazing of the algae by zooplankton, which in turn enhances predator biomass, controls algal growth, and regenerates nutrients. In abiotic factors, salinity, dissolved oxygen, and pH may be responsible for the variations of phytoplankton in the zooplankton community. So right here is the organism, the black grouper, and these are intermediate consumers. And the black grouper, which also means black rockfish or marbled rockfish, is a species of marine ray-finned fish, which is part of the family Serranidae, which also includes the anthias and sea basses. Black grouper are found in the western Atlantic from Massachusetts to Brazil. They are particularly associated with the southern Gulf of Mexico, Florida Keys, Cuba, the Bahamas, and throughout the Caribbean. Black groupers are known as heterotroph because it is a consumer because they consume producers or other consumers. Groupers, like many reef fish, spawn offshore, on shelf, and shelf edge reefs. Their pelagic larvae remain in the open ocean for 40 to 60 days before reaching inshore nursery grounds. They are also a example of nekton fish. Here's the food web for the black grouper, and some young black groupers may feed on crustaceans or mostly shrimp. Adults feed on other fish and squid. Black grouper have large, powerful jaws that they use to ambush their prey. They do not have teeth, and instead of using their mouth and gills to suck up their prey. Predators of groupers include large fish such as barracuda or the gray reef shark, king mackerel, and moray eels, as well as other groupers. The sandbar shark and the great hammerhead shark are also known to feed on groupers. Abiotic factors for fish is water temperature, amount of dissolved oxygen in water, and etc. Penetration of sunlight is also important in freshwater habitat. Biotic factors are predators, disease-causing organisms, organisms available as food, population density of competitors. They are also at the top of their food web and are therefore naturally rare. However, during reproduction, they come together in groups at least of 100 individuals. So right here is, as you saw in previous food webs, as long as this one also, this is the black tip reef shark. And black tip reef sharks are top predators because they have very few natural predators. These sharks have the black tip at the top of their fins, where their name also comes from. Among the most abundant sharks inhabiting the tropical coral reefs of the Indian and Pacific Oceans, this species prefers shallow inshore waters. All predators are heterotrophs, meaning they must consume the tissues of other organisms to fuel their own growth and reproduction. The most common use of the term is to describe the many types of carnivorous animals that catch, kill, and eat other animals. Pelagic or oceanic sharks live in the open waters of seas and oceans. They inhabit tropical and temperate waters, and many are migratory. Pelagic sharks are constantly on the move and rely on lift from their pectoral fins and buoyancy from the low density oils in their large livers to stop them from sinking. So, right here, as you can see, this is also the same food web as before because in this food web it demonstrates that the blacktip reef shark is the top predator still. And blacktip reef shark prefers fish, but also feeds on crustaceans and other mollusks. Common prey include surgeonfish and mullay. In inshore mangrove areas, this shark will also consume snakes, and these sharks' adaptations also include the caudal fin is used in propulsion, and the pectoral fins are used to navigate through the water. This combined with its cartilaginous skeleton makes for a flexible and very successful motile predator. The blacktip reef shark is a species that lives alone or in small groups. It is a strong swimmer, very attractive, shy, but unpredictable when aggressive. The main biotic factors facing the blacktip shark globally are natural predators such as larger sharks and humans that hunt the blacktip shark. Abiotic factors influencing the use of coastal habitat by sharks include temperature, salinity, and dissolved oxygen. So right here is the decomposer, the polychaete worm. And the polychaete is a paraphyletic class of generally marine annelid worms, commonly called bristle worms or polychaetes. Currently, over 13,000 polychaete species have been scientifically described worldwide, and thousands more await discovery and description. Decomposers are heterotrophs that break down and feed on the remains of dead organisms and other organic waste such as feces. In the process, they release simple inorganic molecules back to the environment. The benthic zone has decomposers such as this worm. This is the food web, and polychaetes may feed on prey or carrion, mollusks, crustaceans, ophiuroids, and polychaetes. Fragments are often consumed. Cannibalism is also found for this species. They will also consume large amounts of detritus in the absence of prey items. Most importantly, polychaetes may play a vital role in climate control by helping to reduce carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. The diet of polychaete species show large variation, and some species are very active hunters while others can be scavengers. What factors impact life in coral reefs? So the chemical side, we have sunscreen and metals. And sunscreen may because when beachgoers go to the ocean to go swimming, they may have sunscreen on in the water, and sunscreen can cause permanent DNA damage to coral. And metals such as mercury and lead and organic chemicals are also found in the ocean. For physical, we may have overfishing, destructive fishing methods, and tourism may also cause polluting or overfishing. Increased ocean temperatures and changing ocean chemistry are also the greatest global threats to coral reef ecosystems. Geological, we have sea surface temperature, salinity, and ocean currents. These are numerous stress factors that can detrimentally impact the health of coral reefs. These include changes in sea surface temperature and salinity, sea level and ocean currents, and nutrient availability. How do organisms interact with coral reefs? We have photosynthesis, provides income for millions, converts light energy, and impacts physical environment as well.